Today we're sitting down with Scott Smolsky, owner of Watermen Mechanical, to talk about the top mistakes homeowners in Edmonton make with their plumbing systems. From ignoring early warning signs to risky DIY fixes, Scott is here to share his expert advice straight from the field. If you're a homeowner in Edmonton, this is the kind of insight that can save you thousands in repairs and a whole lot of stress. All right, Scott, so we're going to jump right in with question number one.
Sure thing.
What is the number one plumbing mistake you see homeowners in Edmonton making again and again?
The number one mistake I would have to say that causes a lot of issues in the future is not disconnecting your hose bib in the fall.
Okay. What kind of problems does that cause?
So that's going to cause, even if it's a non-freeze hose bib, Trevor, they're only classified as non-freeze if you disconnect your hose bib.
If you disconnect, okay.
Also, the other caveat to that would be that they have to be graded away from your house. So sometimes that's hard to tell, but basically when you shut off your hose bib, it should dribble out a little bit of water. Okay. If it doesn't, you know that it's sitting back in that stem, and then there's a good possibility of freezing in the winter, even if it is a non-freeze hose bib. So sometimes they don't get installed properly and they can freeze over winter. And then come springtime, they thaw out and they have a burst in your wall and then leak into your wall in your basement.
There you go, folks.
So simple as disconnecting your hose in the fall time.
Yeah. So biggest issue is not disconnecting those suckers. So don't be lazy. Do it. You'll thank me later. All right. Number two, why is it risky to pour grease down a kitchen sink, even if you follow it with hot water like some people recommend?
Well, that's a good question. Even if you follow with hot water, obviously hot water is going to keep that grease nice and liquid. And so it should flow more freely through a drainage system. But sometimes there's other blockages, other things can build up over time, especially in an older home. They only started using plastic drainage in the last 40 years. So even before that, if it's before that time, the old metal piping can get corroded and build a lot of corrosion build up inside those pipes. And even if you're flushing it with hot water, that grease can just collect in those pipes. And over time, it's going to create quite the backup. And if it is a slow build up over time, it's actually more difficult to dislodge than obviously a quick blockage that's instantaneous.
Wow. Okay. So don't put grease down your kitchen sink. Store it, don't pour it, as they say.
That's right.
Put it to the side, let it harden, throw it in the trash later.
Great slogan.
Yeah. Number three, can ignoring a slow draining sink or tub really lead to a major issue down the road? What should homeowners do instead?
Well, I would say if you have something slow draining, you should probably call out a plumber, preferably Watermen Mechanical.
Yeah.
We can come and either scope your drain or we can send the auger right down and clear up the blockage and free up the drainage. The biggest problem that we see with drainage blockages is that when it does get to a full blockage or a mostly partial blockage, would be that the backup comes out the sink or the toilet and then creates other damage, other water damage.
Okay. So call a plumber, get that thing yanked out of there, whatever it is, and make sure you take care of it. So
that's right.
Don't ignore it. All right. Number four, how do seasonal changes in Edmonton, like deep freezes in winter, affect plumbing systems if homeowners aren't prepared?
Well, leads us back to the hose bib. That can be a big one. So you got to disconnect those hose bibs in the fall. It can just lead to some major damages in the basements, especially in some newer homes, older homes. It doesn't really matter what age your home is. Even if it's a new home with a new non-freeze hose bib, there can still be faults. The other thing that we find is that if the renovation has been done poorly, there's water lines that sneak through even just a little bit in that outside wall. And now with insulation, vapor barrier, drywall, all being so good and having such a good R value, sometimes that cold air will only penetrate into the house a little bit, but the hot air also doesn't get out to that rim joist space. And so we see a lot of water lines in a kitchen sink or a shower that is located near the outside wall that can freeze up in those -30, -40 days that we still do get in Edmonton.
Yeah. One thing that happened with us, it wasn't the actual water line. It was the drain for the washing machine.
Yes.
The drain for the washing machine was run too far to the outside wall, and they didn't put it on the warm side, or didn't have the vapor barrier in the right location.
Right.
So the water lines were okay, but the drain line froze. So we had an issue with the drainage. So we had to call in a plumber, and basically all he did was take out the drywall, and we just left it like that, let it thaw.
Okay.
And then left it that way because the way that they installed it was terrible. And when it reached -30, -35, it froze, and we're getting an error code on our washing machine. We're like, what? It's a drainage issue. So I checked all of the pipes and all the stuff coming in and out. I cleaned the filters out, and it was still the issue. And I'm like, then I thought I'd run it while I was back there watching it, and then water started pouring out the drain. I'm like, oh boy, it's frozen. That's what's going on.
Well, good for you for catching it.
So anyways,
most people wouldn't even go that far. So
well, I'm a little crazy. So, all right, we got her done.
Right on.
So the next thing here is question 5. What's your take on store-bought drain cleaners? Are they doing more harm than good?
Well, any chemical that you put down a drainage system isn't great for the city water drainage system. Obviously, we pull our water out of the river, and whatever we pull out goes back into the river. We treat it first. I believe EPCOR and the city take care of that. But any chemicals that you're pouring down the drainage system do more harm than good, in our opinion. And most of those drain cleaners that you're going to be buying over the counter at the big box stores, they're not going to do very much for those clogs.
Yeah. Best thing to do is get it snaked.
Augured out. Yes.
Get it augured out. Okay. Question number 6. You've probably seen your fair share of DIY disasters. What's a repair a homeowner should never attempt without a licensed plumber?
Well, I would say anything to do with gas, Trevor.
Ooh.
Definitely anything to do with gas. A lot of small leaks on gas. If you don't test it properly, if you don't air test it and then leak test it, you can get a leak on gas, and it's always a safety issue for us. So
yeah, that's huge. Can cause a fire, explosion, bad things.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there you have it. Never attempt to do your own gas lines. There's special training you have to go through, and you get certified to be able to work with gas.
Yeah, a lot of people might think just hooking up a barbecue can be quick and simple, but then you go to hook it up, and that barbecue can catch fire. So
yeah,
be careful.
In a bad way. Yeah. All right, let's talk water pressure. Some people love it strong, but when does high water pressure become a serious problem?
So in the city, mostly the water pressure is pretty constant. You don't usually have to worry about water pressure. I think a lot of big misconception with a lot of people is water pressure versus water flow.
Okay.
And what that means is that when you turn on too many fixtures in your home, or you have some debris in your pipes or in your faucets or cartridges of the shower and tub, that can build up over time and then create less water flow. The pressure is actually still the same, even though it doesn't seem like it. Mm-hmm. It's actually just a flow issue.
Okay. Now, if the pressure seems too high, is there any possible problem with too high of a pressure? Is that even a thing that's going to occur in the city of Edmonton?
So too high of water pressure usually happens in the downtown area or the lower parts of Edmonton, so the Rosedale and Roslyn areas. Mm-hmm. And we have seen a couple different types of supply lines on different faucets can blow off. Mm-hmm. We have seen that in the past, but it doesn't happen often. But it did happen in the last 2 years. We had a call for a couple of those. So just be careful. And that's why you call a licensed plumber, to make sure everything's installed correctly and to manufacturer's specifications.
There you have it. Now, question number 8, how often should homeowners in Edmonton have their plumbing system inspected, and what does that typically involve?
So plumbing inspection, we can come in and we basically make sure that all your valves are working. So especially that main water shutoff valve by your water meter, that's the most important one in your home. If you don't exercise your valves, regularly, about once a year, twice a year, you can get build up, and then the water hardness will freeze them stiff. And so even though you have them under your sink, behind all your fixtures, and by your hot water tank, they're not really going to work after a few years if you don't exercise them. So we'll come in, we'll shut them all on and off a few times, exercise them. We'll check all your fill valves in your toilets. We make sure that the cartridges and aerators are all cleaned out, and make sure all your drainage system is working properly. Okay.
Number 9, if a homeowner suddenly notices a spike in their water bill, what steps should they take before calling a plumber?
So if you notice a spike in your water bill, we do get calls for this once in a while. Oftentimes it'll be a toilet. So the water's bypassing the flapper, or it's constantly filling up, and then the toilet actually just naturally flushes itself. So they call it a ghost flush. That's the biggest thing you can check. So basically shut off all the water fixtures in your home. So make sure that your dishwasher or your laundry isn't running. Make sure that your sprinkler isn't running. Make sure even that your furnace is just turn down the temperature on your furnace so it shuts down momentarily, because that can run your humidifier, which takes water, obviously. So once all those things are shut down in your home, you want to go down to your water meter, usually located near your hot water tank, and just make sure that that needle isn't spinning anymore or the gauge isn't going up on your water meter. If it is continually moving and everything is shut down in your home, then you know you have a water leak somewhere. Quite often humidifier valve or a toilet.
There you go. Those are the culprits to look out for.
Yeah.
All right, I think this is the last question. What's one small habit every homeowner could adopt today that would extend the life of their plumbing system?
Yeah, that's a good question. I just mentioned the valves. I would think the valves is a big one, because those shut-off valves are important. If you ever have a leak, then you can go and isolate that water so you don't get water damage even further. If you don't exercise them at least once or twice a year, they can freeze up, harden up on you, and they're pretty negligible at that point.
Right. So then you have to do your main water shut off and then call a plumber.
Exactly.
All right. Awesome. Thanks so much for sharing all that information with us. Again, guys, if you are in need of a plumber, look to Watermen Mechanical. They are a local Edmonton plumbing company, mechanical company, and yeah, they're happy to serve. You'll talk to this guy over here, he'll come and give you a fair quote.
That's right. We have excellent customer service and a quick response time.
Awesome. We'll see you guys on the next video.
Thanks very much.